In today's video, God willing, we will be going through all of the, quite frankly, embarrassing clips from the recent debate that Avery had against Brother Libiano. Inshallah, I'll be having a reflections live with Libiano in the future, inshallah, over this debate. I think he did amazing within this debate, and we will go through all of Avery's absolute blunders and exposing of his ignorance on the early church. Without further ado, let's start the exposing.
In Luke, Jesus is called the Son of the Most High. Who's the Most High picking out here?
The Father.
The Father. Is there any other instance where the word specifically the Most High applied to Jesus?
Yeah.
Where?
In Daniel 7, verse 25.
No, in the New Testament, sir.
Well, Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man.
No, I asked you, the words the Most
Man.
High, do they
Yeah.
ever apply to Jesus in the New Testament?
Oh, well, he's the Son of Man who is identified as the Most High.
That's
in
not the
Daniel
question.
7.
I said the words the Most High, these words, do they ever appear for Jesus in the New Testament?
Again, I'm saying yes, he's the Son of Man who is identified
Sir,
as
I
the
asked
Most
you about
High.
the words the Most High, not the Son of Man.
I don't know how many times you want me to say this. He's
Okay,
the Son of Man who is identified as the Most High in Daniel 7,
Okay, good.
verse
So
18, verse 25, and 27.
Perfect. There isn't any.
Besides the fact that he couldn't bring from the New Testament and he has to resort to the Old Testament, even the Old Testament passage, he's absolutely butchering it. He says later on that Daniel chapter 7 verse 18, that it calls the Son of Man the Most Highs.
So it says there in Daniel 7 concerning the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man, it refers to, in verse 18, it refers to them as the Most Highs. How is it that they're being referred to as the Most Highs, plural, if Jesus isn't the most? Well, I'm kind of confused that you say.
I mean, are you just illiterate or are you just dense and stupid? It clearly says in the text that they are the people of the Most High. Are the people of the Most High identical to the Most High? It's like saying the people of the king is identical to the king. Are you serious?
Would you agree that the one God, Yahweh, is a triune, self-conscious entity aware of its individuations?
Can you simplify your question, Libiano?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll dumb it down for you. Was Irenaeus a Trinitarian?
I believe so.
Okay, and did he learn from Polycarp, who learned from John?
I'm not that familiar with all of Irenaeus' teachings. So
was he a Trinitarian or not?
I believe he was. I have to do more study on him.
Okay, Irenaeus says in Book 2, Chapter 28, Article 6 and 8, that Jesus in his divinity has less knowledge and that the Father excels in knowledge. Can you be a Christian and believe that?
I know the concept you're talking about. He's talking about in which Jesus is talking about the hour. I believe it is. Is that the context?
Yes.
Yeah, and so in that context, he's arguing that that it's not that he's not all-knowing, but that he relinquishes this knowledge to the Father and is submitting in his human limitations.
He doesn't say that anywhere. He doesn't say that anywhere in
That's
the text.
Yes, it is.
He says that the Father excels in respect to knowledge to the Son. Do you believe that?
And the context is in Jesus and his humanity.
He doesn't say that though.
Yeah,
you just made that up.
I didn't.
So let's read. But beyond reason, inflated within your own wisdom, you presumptuously maintain that you are acquainted with the unspeakable mysteries of God, while even the Lord, the very Son of God, allowed that the Father alone knows the very day and hour of judgment, when he plainly declares, then he quotes Mark 13:32. If then the Son was not ashamed to ascribe knowledge of that day to the Father only, but declared what was true regarding the matter, neither let us be ashamed to reserve for God those greater questions which may occur to us. Now, he says, even the Lord, the very Son of God, didn't know. Then he says even he didn't know. Okay. If Jesus was a human, and he was talking about the humanity, then of course in his humanity he doesn't know. What's so significant of saying a human doesn't know the hour? He could have said John, Matthew, Mark, they don't know the hour, and then quote Mark 13:32 saying no one knows the hour. But why does he say the very Son of God, the Lord, the very Son of God? He says that because Jesus has higher knowledge than a human. He has higher knowledge than the angels. He has higher knowledge than anyone, and yet he doesn't know the hour. So even if this divine being doesn't know something, then surely us, human beings, shouldn't be ashamed to say we don't know certain things. Important. For if anyone should inquire the reason why the Father, who has fellowship with the Son in all things, has been declared by the Lord alone to know the hour of the day of judgment, he will find at present no more suitable or becoming or safe reason than this, since indeed the Lord is the only true master, that we may learn through him that the Father is above all things. Okay. So here he's saying the reason why Jesus says he doesn't know the hour and that the Father does is to show that the Father is above him. How is the Father above him here? Let's see. Well, the Father says he is greater than I. So John 14:28. The Father, therefore, has been declared by our Lord to excel with respect to knowledge. The reason why Jesus says he doesn't know the hour is because he's trying to emphasize Jesus being greater. And he says that's the whole reason why Jesus says the Father is greater than him. It's a greater of ontology. He says the Father has more knowledge. Knowledge is about ontology. It's about nature. Okay? We're not talking about just the human nature here as well. There's no implication here. There's the human nature. Can someone show me anywhere where he implies that? Avery just made it up.
Tertullian says there was a time the sun didn't exist. Anyways.
And again, no, stop. And that, I got to correct you there because you. No, he doesn't. He says that he tried to sneak that in and misrepresent Tertullian. He doesn't say that there was a time where the sun didn't exist. He says there was a time when the sun was not, in the sense that, and this is the conversation, guys, in chapter 3. He's talking about how Lord, the title Lord and Father are relational terms, not essential to the divine nature. So what he's saying is that the Son was not always the Son. However, he was the Logos, the reason who existed inside the Father. So he didn't always exist as the Son, but he did always exist as the reason of the Father and his word. So he doesn't argue that the Son came into existence. He argues that the Son has always existed of the same substance of the Father. It's just that he wasn't always titled the Son. Get it right. You tried that. Nice try. Try again.
Yeah, again, this is clearly embarrassing. So Tertullian is a proponent of two-stage logos theory. The two-stage logos theorists basically believe that Jesus had two stages of being. First, he was inside the Father. Secondly, he was made into a person as being the Son. The reason why Tertullian believes that there was a time where the Son wasn't a Son is because he does believe there was a time where the Son didn't exist as the Son. And if he didn't exist as the Son in a point of time, that then means he doesn't have personhood in the time. And if he doesn't have a personhood in a point of time, then he can't eternally be the Son. He existed prior as something inside of the Father, being his reason or his word or his wisdom. Now you say explicitly, he doesn't say that there was a time where the Son didn't exist.
He doesn't say that there was a time where the Son didn't exist.
We're just gonna read, man. We're just gonna read. Because God is in like manner a Father, and he's also a judge. But he has not always been Father and Judge merely on the ground of his always being God. For he could not have been the Father previous to the Son, nor a Judge previous to sin. There was, however, a time when neither sin existed with him, nor the Son.
He doesn't say that there was a time where the Son didn't exist. He doesn't say that there was a time where the Son didn't exist. 8. It says that that the Israelites spoke against Yahweh and they spoke against Moses, and then God sent serpents to destroy them. Who is Yahweh that they spoke against?
That's the Logos of God, as Justin Martyr and Irenaeus would say.
Nice. Okay, so you just gave me the debate. Is Yahweh the Most High God?
Yahweh in what sense?
Is Yahweh the Most High God?
Yeah, so when you're referring to Yahweh, the ineffable creator, the Father of the Son, who doesn't interact with the world like Justin Martyr says and Irenaeus say and Theophilus say, then yeah, he's the Most High God. But if you're referring to Yahweh when he appears and he talks to prophets and he does other things that are not allowed in the Platonic view, then that would be the Logos of God acting as Yahweh.
Nice. Is Jesus Yahweh?
Jesus is Yahweh in the lesser sense, yeah.
Jesus is Yahweh in the lesser sense. Nice. Oh man, thank you so much. Can you?
Yeah, he uses this as a point that's just stupid because it's like saying, it's like talking the debate. Just to give an example, it's like saying, is Jesus God in the New Testament? Obviously, we mean the Most High God, right? But it's not. It's already implied in the title. Okay, so there's two ways you can use God: either in capital G sense, ultimate God, the God of the Old Testament, or you can mean God in the sense of, how Satan's called God in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, or how the judges are called gods in John 10 by Jesus himself. When he says, yeah, he's Yahweh, he's a mini Yahweh. That's actually what they believe. So let me give you an example. Here we go. Justin is saying that he believes Jesus is Yahweh as a mini Yahweh, as a lesser Yahweh. That's exactly what Libyan is saying. Okay, so these passages of scripture do not apply to the Father, but to the Word. So whenever God is mentioned, so for example, God went up to Abraham in Genesis. The Lord spoke to Moses in Exodus. Or when Noah built the ark in Genesis, or anything of these examples from the Old Testament. Whenever it says God appeared, so now we have two gods, God the Father and God the Son. Now, he doesn't believe they have the same nature or same power, and he explains it right here. You must not imagine that the unbegotten God himself came down. Okay, hold up. He's saying there's one God, the Father. There's no way that he came down. It's the other God who's called Yahweh in the Old Testament that came down. Okay, so why is it that the Son came down and it can't be the Father? Let's see what he says. For the ineffable Father and Lord of all, neither has come to any place, nor walks, nor sleeps, nor rises up, but remains in his own place, wherever that is, quick to behold and quick to hear, having neither eyes nor ears, but being of indescribable might. And he sees all things, and he knows all things, and none of us escapes his observation. And he's not moved or confined to a spot in the whole world, for he existed before the world was made. How then could he talk with anyone, or be seen by anyone, or appear on the smallest portion of the earth? So he's saying that the reason why the Father didn't come down, and it was a Son that came down, is because of an ontological difference between the Father and the Son. Because if you ask a Trinitarian, or if you ask someone that believes Jesus is the Most High God, did Jesus in the Old Testament, did he have eyes or ears? Did he sleep? Did he walk? Was he in a place? They would say no. So why is he saying the Father can't do these things? That's why he came down. He's implying that if you come down, you're going to have these things applied to you. You're going to have to walk. You're going to have to be confined to a place. You're going to have to rise up. You're going to have eyes or ears. Does Jesus have eyes or ears in the Old Testament before he became a human? Does God have composite parts? Does he have eyes, ears, and is limited to within a space and has these ontological inferior qualities that a Trinitarian wouldn't ascribe to God? Of course not. So clearly he's saying there's a Yahweh that's mentioned in the Old Testament, and this Yahweh that's mentioned can have these limitations. But the other Yahweh that's mentioned, no, that Yahweh cannot. It's very clear. Let's bring up another quote. Let's bring up Tertullian, right? King inquiry of Adam, as if he were ignorant. Where are you, Adam? Well, that's not a really good example, I would say, but he's basically saying if there's something that's deficient, like deficient knowledge, this is Jesus. Repenting that he had made man, as if he had lacked foresight, Genesis 6:6. Tempting Abraham as if ignorant of what was in man, offended with persons, and then reconciled to them, and whatever other weaknesses and imperfections the heretics lay hold of in their assumptions as unworthy of God, in order to discredit the Creator, not considering that these circumstances are suitable enough for the Son. What's he saying? There's a God in the Old Testament. There's two gods. One that can take on imperfections, and another one that can't take imperfections, which is the Creator. The Creator is the higher Yahweh. The Son is the lesser Yahweh. It's very clear. I can bring other examples. So Tertullian and Justin Martyr is enough, because I don't have time to do this all day.
Question to Logic. Question for God Logic. How do you answer the dilemma that if Jesus is truly the Most High God, why does he say in Mark 10:18, why do you call me good? Only God is good.
Because he is asking a thought-provoking question to the young ruler to get him to think and to understand the implications that he is that he's coming with when he calls Jesus good. And so when he calls Jesus good, this implies good in every sense, in the perfect sense that God is. And he says, he responds, why do you call me good? Only God is good. Now, this isn't Jesus denying that he is good. It's a thought-provoking question to get the man to think about what he's asking, which is why later on you see Jesus, as he says that he kept most of the commandments. He says, there's one that you lack, sell all your possessions to the poor, and then come and follow me. What is the commandment that he was missing there? Well, that's idolatry. He loved his possessions more than he revered God and loved God. And so by choosing his possessions and over Jesus, instead of following Jesus, he was disobeying the commandment to not put any gods before him, which also points to Jesus's divinity there.
All right. We're going to pass it over to Libby. Let me reset the timer. Go ahead. Go.
Thank you very much. So as usual, Avery has to skip over the plain reading of the text, and there's a couple of issues with what he said. First of all, the younger ruler understands that Jesus to not call him good because he stops calling him good. He doesn't call him good teacher anymore. The next time he uses it, he says teacher. So he understood, okay, don't call me good. That's first of all. Second of all, our earliest manuscript of Mark 10 is in the Codex Vaticanus from the 4th century, about 325 to 350. Our earliest attestation of this verse comes from Tertullian, Irenaeus, Justin Martyr, and Hippolytus. You know how they read it? Why do you call me good? For there's but one good, my Father in heaven. So the earliest reading of the text goes against your ad hoc, terrible explanation. And so Jesus is saying, don't call me good. As a matter of fact, we have a quotation in the Clementine homilies, homily 3, where this is quoted as, don't call me good, for only my Father is good. Thank you.
I don't really need to comment on that. Libiano just absolutely cooked him. The only thing that I would add is that Christians found it so problematic that they started to distort manuscripts in Matthew and change the question from why do you call me good to why do you ask me about what is good. All of the quotes that Libiano mentioned are all located in my exclusive Discord server. If you want to have direct contact to myself, have my notes on the early church fathers that would be useful in discourses and are personally written by myself with hours of research into them, then just become a Patreon member down below for $10 a month and I'll send you the link for the Discord so you can join. The server will also have weekly lessons. This week, inshallah, it'll be Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned in the Old Testament, presented by my brother Proving Islam. Also, obviously, all the funds will go towards the dawah, thumbnail making, editing, research on the channel. Jazakallah khair for the support.
From Dean, if you want here.
Yes. What is the question from Dean?
So he says, John taught Polycarp and he taught Irenaeus. According to you, based on the debate, you believe John and Polycarp and Irenaeus are Trinitarians. The problem is Irenaeus taught if Jesus taught anyone else to be the true God, he would have been a teacher of transgression. And that he also says if the disciples taught this, they would have been on an indevious path. And so Irenaeus says that only the Father could be called the true God. Do you agree with this or disagree?
I would have to have him bring the quote and to see what the context he's talking about. Since these guys are known for misquoting and misrepresenting church theologians and church fathers, I don't trust anything that you have to say, Dean, without seeing the quote on and its context. You said that Jesus taught that this was that it was it was deviation to teach that anybody else was the true God. Well, that's not what Jesus teaches at all. Jesus actually teaches that he is the true God. He teaches that he is the one who gives eternal life, who has authority over all flesh. He teaches that he's the king of the day of judgment, the one who's going to raise the dead on judgment day. We're going to hear his voice as the Son. He identifies himself as the Most High God, the Son of Man, who's identified as the Most High in Daniel 7, along with the Ancient of Days. He refers to himself as the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the first and the last, the true one, the witness who Yahweh identifies himself to be in the book of Isaiah. So Jesus himself taught this. Jesus is deviant, I think not.
So the reason why I sped it up is because he misinterpreted the question. The question was clearly that Irenaeus says that Jesus would be a teacher of transgression had it been taught that he called anyone else besides the Father true God. Now the issue is actually ironically, because you cited all those passages from the New Testament and Irenaeus has a golden apostolic succession chain, this means that if Irenaeus, someone that knows the Greek, someone that learned directly from a student from John, if he was able to reconcile all of your passages that you cited and yet still reconciles the idea that the Father is the alone true God and no one else is that true God, then that just completely undercuts all of those passages. It just means that you have to rethink your interpretation. Now let me ask you something. Who would have a better interpretation? Someone who knew the Greek, who comes from a golden line of apostolic succession, where the author's student is teaching him theology. Is he going to get wrong on who the true God is? Or is Mr. Avery, 21st century, sorry for an excuse, apologist, going to have a better interpretation? Someone who's illiterate of the Greek and has no apostolic succession. You tell me.
It says, other things are created ex nihilo, out of nothing. So stop equivocating when you use the term created here. It's embarrassing. You can't.
Well, they don't say that he's created.
You can't even track.
There you go. There you go again, lying on them.
Does it? You want to see it?
So yeah. Here's my question. Here's my next question.
Do you want to see it or not?
Here's my next question. Stop interrupting me.
Yeah. So the context of that conversation where Avery says that Libiano was lying on a church writer was with regards to Tertullian. He says that Libiano is lying that Tertullian says that he's created. Well, let's read against Hermogenes chapter 18. Let Hermogenes then confess that the very wisdom of God is declared to be born and created. for the special reason that we should not suppose that there is any other being than God alone who is unbegotten and uncreated. He says, I mean his wisdom, which was born and created.
He said, Justin Martyr, he lied. He said that Justin Martyr said that the Son is corruptible. No, he didn't. He did not say that. In describing the nature of the Father, he described the Father as incorruptible and unbegotten and stuff like that. Not once did he say, as a result, the Son is corruptible now. You liar. Stop lying on the sources, man. Stop misusing.
For God alone is unbegotten and incorruptible, and therefore he is God. So what's the condition of being God? Being unbegotten and incorruptible. Is Jesus begotten? Yes. So he's not unbegotten. So he can't be God in the same sense as the Father. It literally refutes him. But all other things after him are created and corruptible. Everything that is not unbegotten and incorruptible are things that came after him. That includes Jesus. Explicitly, he puts the condition of being unbegotten and incorruptible for someone not be able to change. And how do we know this? Actually, you know what? Let me just show this section from my server. Here are the quotes, right? You have all my notes on Justin Martyr believing that because the Son is begotten, then he can change, right? Clearly, this is what it says here. In chapter 114 and chapter 127, Justin emphasizes the begotten nature of the Father as playing a role in him not having deficiencies and being corruptible. Let's have a look. Chapter 127. This is the quote I read before. He says, you must not imagine that the unbegotten God came down. Because the ineffable Father and Lord of all does not come down to a place. He doesn't walk. He doesn't sleep. That's essentially the quote, right? So that's the reason why the Father is the one who didn't come down, and it's the Son. Highlighted here. The first part is talking about how God appeared in the Old Testament. The yellow part is talking about how God did not come down. The Father did not come down. And he says the unbegotten God did not come down. The blue part is showing an ontological difference, showing that because the Father doesn't change and the Son can change, that's why the Son came down. It's not merely a difference in role. It's a difference in ontology as to why the Son came down and not the Father. That's very clear from the blue text. Okay, the red underlined is to show that it's about the Old Testament, not incarnation. The yellow is to show that the Father can't come down. Okay, so it says, how then could he talk with anyone or be seen by anyone if the Father doesn't have these corrupted features that make him corruptible? It's very clear. You want another quote? Here. Again, he emphasizes the begotten nature of the Son. The unbegotten nature of the Father as to why he's not corruptible. So look at this quote. I shall not understand intelligently, but just as your teacher supposed, fancying that the Father of all, the unbegotten God, has hands and feet and fingers and, I can't read that, and a soul, like a composite being. And they, for this reason, teach that it was the Father himself who appeared to Abraham and Jacob. So he's saying the one that appeared to Abraham and Jacob has hands, has feet, has fingers, and is a composite being. Is a composite being corruptible? Yes. Okay. So it's very clear when you have Dialogue with Trifo, chapter 5. So this quote, in context, because obviously I've read Dialogue with Trifo. Avery hasn't read him. Most Christians haven't read Justin Martyr and Dialogue with Trifo. So they think that they can cope with this quote in isolation. When you have all of this together, it's impossible. It's impossible for someone to deny this, that he believes that the Son is corruptible because he's begotten.